Join the cause. Go pink for breast cancer awareness. There is hope.
This Monday morning, the 15th day of July 2013. We did tell you that we were going to be playing host to two gentlemen within the theatre industry, and our focus was going to be the presentation of African cultural values through the works of art, with particular focus on the icon of modern literary excellence himself, Professor Wole Soyinka, who turned 79 some 2 days ago. And so we are being joined right away by a foremost theatre practitioner who is also a director of note as far as theatre and film production is concerned. We're talking of Mr. You know him generally as stage name as Itu Baroka. I'm tempted to want to introduce him to you the more by his stage name, which many of you will readily want to understand him with. He will be joined this morning by Yinka Ola Williams, who is also an artistic director from the Olusegun Obasanjo Presidential Library. Ola Williams is actually so glad this morning one of his foremost persons is in the studio. Ola, what is my, what are they?
Àwọn bàbá tí ọlọ́rọ̀ ẹ̀ sọ̀rọ̀ ládà àwọn olóṣèlú àwọn ọ̀gbẹ̀rì pàápàá wá ṣára wọn jọ wọ́n máa ṣe ọ̀gbẹ̀rì bọ́jọ́ bá fún fèrè àwọn ọjọ́ ẹgbẹ́ náà ló ń fún sí.
Ọjọ́ dé àbí?
Bẹ́ẹ̀ ni o ti parọ́ kan. Tó ẹ̀yẹ́ yọ ọmọ kì í pé ẹkú kalẹ̀ lónìí gẹ́gẹ́ bí a ti ṣe sọ wọ́n ní ẹni tó bá sọ lẹ́nu irú ẹni bẹ́ẹ̀ ó ti sọ àpò ìyàkọ́ torí odò kì í ṣànṣànṣàn kó má ní orí irun. Ṣùgbọ́n ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ wa nílẹ̀ adúláwọ̀ ń bí láti jẹ́ kí àwọn àṣà òyìnbó kí wọ́n kó wa ní ọbẹ̀ kí wọ́n kó wa lọ́bẹ̀ lọ. Ṣùgbọ́n àwọn èèyàn kan ń gbìyànjú láti rí pé àṣà wa ò parun nípa àkọsílẹ̀ eré orí ìtàgé ni o, àgbékalẹ̀ ètò amúlùúdùn ni o àti bẹ́ẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ. Ìdí rèé tí a fi wá wò ó wípé ohun tó bá jọ ohun la fi ń wíwọ̀n ẹ̀pọ̀ ẹ̀pà lójọ kó sí ẹ̀ lérí ní ìjẹta òde yìí. Òun ni ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Wole Soyinka ni wọ́n pé ọmọ ọdún mọ́kàndínlọ́gọ́rin. Àwọn ọ̀rẹ́ wa kan wọ́n pè wọ́n ní birthday 80th birthday eve ni bàbá ni wọ́n ṣe kí Ọlọ́run bá kó bá túbọ̀ lọ́ra ẹ̀mí wọn. Tí a bá dẹ̀ ń wo àkọsílẹ̀ nípa ìgbékalẹ̀ ìtàn tó bá ti adúláwọ̀ mu tó bá ohun tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ láwùjọ mu ẹ̀ pé ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Wole Soyinka ìkànnì kan láwùjọ òkúta lágbàgbé Nobel rẹ̀ ni wọ́n gba àmì ẹ̀yẹ ní gbogbo àgbáyé nípa ọ̀rọ̀ literature èyí tí a mọ̀ sí Nobel rẹ̀ tí wọ́n gbà ní ọdún tó ti pẹ́ sẹ́yìn. àdúgbò lọ́dọ̀ Ọlọ́run pé bàbá náà ṣì wà láyé ó wà láàyè tó dáa. àwa wò ó bá tiẹ̀ lè gbé bàbá wa káwọ àwọn tí wọ́n jẹ́ òǹkọ̀wé, àwọn tí wọ́n ń darí eré orí ìtàgé, àwọn tí wọ́n mọ̀ nípa literature nípa ti ọ̀nà ti ìbílẹ̀ wa ní ìlú Áfíríkà ń bí kájọ fòmọ́jomi tó rọrọ̀. ǹjẹ́ṣẹ́ yìí ṣó ń tẹ̀síwájú? Ọlọ́run ọba lọ́ra ẹ̀mí àwọn bàbá Wole Soyinka ṣẹ́gbàgbé tinú àṣebè ti lọ. bàbá Wole Soyinka ṣì wà. Ọlọ́run àbá lọ́ra ẹ̀mí wọn á pẹ́ láyé wọn á gùn lẹ́mìí nínú ọlá àti lálàáfíà ara. Tínú àwọn bàbá yẹn bá tún kúrò, ǹjẹ́ àwọn ọ̀tàn yìí ò ní dihun àmúgbàgbé? tó ti a bá wo àgbékalẹ̀ sinimá wa àti bí àwọn èèyàn ṣe ń kọ ìtàn, a rí wípé àṣàlẹ̀ wa ò tiẹ̀ sábà wọ̀ mọ́. kábíyèsí pàápàá kábíyèsí ti ń lo chain nínú ìtàn àgbélẹ̀kọ ti ilẹ̀ wa tí ò dẹ̀ síbẹ̀ nígbà kan. a rí pé ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwọn nǹkan bá wo ààfin wa ń gbà míì, a rí pé àwọn ààfin yẹn gan nítàn àgbélẹ̀kọ o kò yẹ kó rí bẹ́ẹ̀. nílùú tá a sọ pé bóyá bí 100 ọdún sẹ́yìn ká máa rí èsì ń bẹ̀ okò díẹ̀ káàtó. alágbára Razak Oyadina mo kí n káàbọ̀ sí orí ètò. ẹ ṣé púpọ̀ ẹ kú dìde.
ẹ ṣé olóòtú.
Now, I want us to start from the perspective of comparative literature, which the man at the center of modern literature is being celebrated for today. Yes. Let's take a look at the place of comparative literature within the context of African setting now.
Well, thank you. Comparative literature, as you have put it, is within the context of how do we perceive literature in Africa, and what are the purposes to which we are putting literature, as well as the Western world. When you come to think of it, the place of Professor Wole Soyinka has become, well, we call him an icon, and because before you can earn that kind of title, it means you must have stood for some principles that people can see. This is somebody who believes first and foremost as an African, thinks like an African, but of course he has to write. He writes African plays, African poems, African novels, but of English expression, because probably without his going international, using international language to express the mind of an African, it would have been difficult for Wole Soyinka to get the kind of international acclaim that he's getting today. But to really know Wole Soyinka, you need to go into the context of his works. He's truly an African man. He stands for everything that is African. He does not pretend about his Africanness the way he writes. Look at some of his plays. You will find that. Let us take the play from where I got my Baroka, for instance. That is The Lion and the Jewel. Take a look at the play and you find that he's just more or less trying to lambast the way Africans are taking European culture in the person of a character like Lakole. He calls him in the literary appreciation of the work. You find the character of Lakole being described as a book-nourished teacher. He's a village teacher, but they don't describe him as book-nourished. Somebody who is selling his African background for the sake of the things that he had learned from Western civilization through books. Unfortunately, you find that at the end of the day, many of these people will not be proper Africans, and other will be proper Europeans, and that is the midway that you find people like that, and that is what Professor Wole Soyinka is drawing attention to. That is what we'll find mostly in all his books. Apart from the most essential part of Soyinka now, the one that people pontificate about, is that Soyinka now, apart from being a writer, is also a literary activist.
Alright, we'll get to talk about his literary activism. We shall be going on this short break to be joined by the second guest on the program this morning, Yinka Ola Williams, another foremost individual within the theatre industry in Nigeria. He is of the Olusegun Obasanjo Presidential Library, and we shall together be taking a look at how best we can preserve cultural values of the African state within the context of works of art, with focus on Professor Wole Soyinka, a renowned individual who has all it takes to be referred to as an icon of comparative literature. Please stay tuned. Of this discourse, which is preservation of African cultural heritage through the works of art, with particular focus on the exploits of Professor Wole Soyinka. Yinka Ola Williams, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
It's nice to have you around. I was greeting you, you are looking sideways. Yinka Ola Williams. Ola Williams. So I'll take his handshake also on his behalf. Ola Williams. So happy this morning. All right, let's leave all right. Now, you met us on the point of doing a general review of the African context within the works of art. How effectively contemporary writers, those who are in the field of artistic works, have been able to effectively blend African culture into what they do right now. And Mr. Oyadiran had actually spoken to us about his own take on that. You are a cultural ambassador too. What will you say we've been able to do towards ensuring effective blend of African culture with contemporary situations?
First of all, I will say happy birthday to Professor Soyinka, who's because of his birthday and his personality, we're having this conversation. I think during the Professor Wole Soyinka, undoubtedly, is known everywhere that he has used through his works and writings, he has promoted African culture, value, themes, in a way that most writers have never been able to do. But to your very question, that how has it been in terms of writers promoting African culture? It used to be, when we were exposed to the theater at the National Theater, there almost all the plays that used to be performed were African plays. Wole Soyinka, Olarotimi, Zulu Shofola, all of them are more of the setting are in a way African set kind of play. But right now, I think we are now having contemporary African writers. So and again, if you go further and begin to ask what really is an African writing, what is a cultural writing, in what sense, what makes a work cultural or African? Is it because of the setting? Is it because of the character, or because of the theme of the work? And we can go on into that. But back to Professor Wole Soyinka, I think he's a great man. I'm not a fan of Wole Soyinka, I must say, and I can speak because Professor Wole Soyinka is a man of multi-dimensional facets. The man is huge. If you continue to talk about him, we have to look at it from different elements, from different angles, to be able to do appropriate justice to that work. But for me, I will see him as a producer who have been in the theater for 16, 17 years now, and I'm not. That's why I use the word. I'm not a fan of Wole Soyinka.
In what context are you not his fan?
I'm not his fan because I do not consider myself as his audience. One, because I believe that Wole Soyinka, when writing, he's not writing for someone like me. He's writing for a metropolitan audience in London or in Lisbon. And I'm being critical, but there's a freedom to do that. Whether it's not about being right or being wrong, it's about one expressing himself within the literary freedom of space that you allow. And I've never, producing for 16 years, I've never gone close to any of Wole Soyinka's play, apart from The Lion and the Jewel, Child International, which are in a way, let's say Child International. So everyone will say, is it Wole Soyinka wrote Child International? And it's quite strange because it doesn't form into the other. And again, I say this from a critical perspective, that Wole Soyinka deliberately chose the style of his writing. Not that he cannot write it the other way, like Olarotimi, like and all the rest. But he was comfortable with that. What word should I'm looking for a word to that difficult. For me, difficult because I'm not. You have to read someone's book and you carry a dictionary.
All right. Before Ola comes in, I want to come back to Mr. Oyadiran. The style of writing of Professor Wole Soyinka is such that has always been in contention among established individuals within the literary world with respect to having to read and reread and interpret and reinterpret your take on his style of writing, does it in any way also conform with your own mindset, or you are still on same page with Yinka Williams?
Probably not. I studied Soyinka to a reasonable extent, and I want to believe that, well, like I said, we have writers with different inclinations and different choice of artistic representation. Wole Soyinka, for instance, is one man who doesn't believe in just most of these works that you talk about, these works that do not challenge you, even as an intellectual. There are things you just pick and drop. You don't pick and drop Wole Soyinka's books. You go back. You go back, and that means that he is a man that is very deep. To appreciate Wole Soyinka, you may have to go beyond reading his plays. You may have to go into his theories. You may have to go into his philosophies. He is a very deep person, and his perception of arts and the responsibility of an artist or a writer is different from what is common. It's different. For instance, you find that there are so many aspects of theory propounded by literary critics that you find that when you go into Soyinka and his perception of drama, you find that his own concern about drama is not what you just find about just going there, perform play and just leave. No, it's not. Harvest,
as he's called himself.
Yes, no. Oh man, this is the one we should celebrate. Honest, this is the one we should celebrate.
Ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ òyìnbó ó máa ń dá àwùjọ lẹ̀ àwálé sí èdè ìbílẹ̀ tiwa tí mo mọ̀ wípé èyí tẹ́ wà ní ẹ̀gbọ́n dáadáa àwọn táwa ń bí náà à ń gbìyànjú. Tá a bá kọ́ sọ̀rọ̀ literature, màá pín àwọn ìbéèrè mi sọ́nà méjì, ìkan fún alàgbà Yinka Williams, ìkan fún alàgbà Oyadiran Rasak. Tí a bá sọ̀rọ̀ nípa literature, òun ni kókó ọ̀rọ̀ tí a gbé débi tí a wá ń fi àpèjúwe ìwé ọlọ́jọ́ òbí ìyẹn ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Wole Soyinka. Tí a bá fẹ́ ṣàlàyé literature yẹn fúnrú ìyá àgbà wa tó wà lábúlé tó gbédè ó gbọ́ Yorùbá, ṣùgbọ́n lára ẹ̀yà èdè ní literature, kí ni ká pè literature Yinka? Ìbéèrè ti Baroka ni pé tá a bá wo literature, lára literature náà a tún gbé ìtẹ́ ń pè ní poetry, a tún gbé yẹn jáde. Mo rántí pé mo ka poem Wole Soyinka kan gbà tá a wà ní ilé ẹ̀kọ́ grammar, telephone conversation. Mi ò ní gbàgbé láéláé torí àkàkà tún kà nígbà tí mo kà tán mo rí i pé mo wá ní ìwúrí, ó fún mi ní ìgboyà kan pé yes, ọmọ adúláwọ̀ ni mí, òyìnbó kan gbọ́dọ̀ máa halẹ̀ kó máa ṣàkọsí mi. Tí a bá wo àwọn poems yìí, ìyẹn pé àwọn ìṣègùn la máa pe poem àbí ewì Wole Soyinka. Tí a bá wo ewì Wole Soyinka, kí ni tó ní í ṣe pẹ̀lú àṣà ilẹ̀ adúláwọ̀? Káàkiri wo literature Yinka.
Gbogbo bí mo ṣe lè bẹ́ẹ̀ sọ bí ẹ̀yà èdè ni bẹ́ẹ̀ ẹ̀yà èdè bẹ́ẹ̀ mi ṣe lè sọ ní Yorùbá, ẹ̀yà èdè tó jẹ́ pé kì í ṣe pé a kàn sọ bí èdè, bẹ́ẹ̀ á farabalẹ̀ wo bí èdè yẹn bá ṣe máa gbé kalẹ̀ nípa pé kéèyàn rí nǹkan ọ̀kọ́ òun nínú ọkàn ẹ̀ pé ìtàn yìí bó ṣe yẹ kó lọ nílé yìí, èmi fẹ́ sọ ìtàn, gbogbo wa là ń sọ̀tọ̀, bẹ̀yàn kan wá wò pé bóun ó fẹ́ fi ara balẹ̀ pé kó tún fi epo kó fi ata sí ìtàn yẹn, ìlèwé tó yẹ pé tó bá ṣe gbé kalẹ̀ á ṣe nǹkan tó máa ṣe ń jẹ fún ìyàn ní fún ẹ̀ máa wò pé bí oníkálukú dẹ̀ ṣe ń ṣe tiẹ̀ nípa pé béèyàn ṣe lè tó ṣe appreciate ẹ̀ tó oníkálukú gbà la fi mọ ẹni tó jẹ́ ọ̀gá yàtọ̀ sí ẹlòmíràn kọ̀ọ̀kan tiẹ̀ ní yẹpẹrẹ. Bẹ́ẹ̀ fún Professor Wole Soyinka bíi pé à ń fagbára kọ́ ni, bíi pé ìbá ṣe kọ́ gan ẹni tó kọ́ bíi ipa ni ẹni tó máa kà gan ipa náà lòun náà. Nǹkan tó ṣẹlẹ̀ ni pé Wole Soyinka mo kà nígbà wọn tó bèrè lọ́wọ́ ẹ̀ pé ta lẹni gangan tó ń kọ̀wé sí, because gbogbo ẹni tó bá ń kọ̀wé nǹkan tèmi rò ni pé ó jẹ́ representative àwọn èèyàn ibi tó wà ní aṣojú àwọn èèyàn ló jẹ́. so tí èmi bá ń sọ pé mò ń kọ̀wé ní mò ń ṣe aṣojú àwọn èèyàn báyìí ṣé àwọn èèyàn tí mo wá kọ̀wé pa ẹ̀ tí mo ní mo ṣáájójú wọn ṣé kò yẹ káwọn gan kọ́ mọ ìtumọ̀ nǹkan tí mò ń kọ ṣé a ní láti wá tún máa sọ pé a tún fẹ́ máa kọ́ àwọn èèyàn mi ní nǹkan tí mò ń sọ bẹ́ẹ̀ nǹkan tí mò ń sọ àwọn aráàlúgbò mi ó yé wọn gẹ́gẹ́ so òun ní agbára Wọlé Ṣóyínká òun pàtó iṣẹ́ Professor Wọlé Ṣóyínká ni pé ìyá ọlọ́jà wọn ò lè understand nǹkan tó sọ if àwọn tó kàwé tó bá kà mọ́rán bí àwọn ọ̀gá wa tó yẹ pé wọ́n understand ẹ̀ dáadáa èèyàn ní wò pé ohun tí wọ́n bá ní ìmọ̀ yẹn láti appreciate iṣẹ́ ìgbà yẹn ni wọ́n máa rí pé iṣẹ́ jaburata lẹ́nu iṣẹ́
ẹgbẹ́ àjànàkú
kọjá mo rí nǹkan fìrí bẹ́ẹ̀ ni tí ò bá tí ì délé àwọn kan sọ pé òun ò rẹ́dì láti wá sílẹ̀ pé anybody tó bá fẹ́ kọ́ láti wá sókè ní level tóun náà fi ń rorí Red was asked that who are you writing for and he doesn't really he never kò lè sọ pé ẹni báyìí lòun kọ fún pé òun mọ̀ pé àwọn kan máa wà wọ́n lè máa pọ̀ o tó yẹ pé wọ́n máa nǹkan tó ń kọ́ ó máa yé wọn ó máa jẹ́ the same ìṣekùn náà lọ ṣe ń rorí lóòótọ́ ọ̀pọ̀ èèyàn understand iṣẹ́ ẹ̀gbẹ́ alágbára ni.
káwọ pé ẹwà irú èmi báyìí mo understand.
káwọ pé ẹwà èdè tí ó ń lò àbí torí ìgbà míì náà wà nínú Yorùbá tá à ń sọ yìí tí àwọn tí wọ́n gbọ́ Yorùbá bá sọ fún àwọn tí ò gbọ́ bí irú àwọn Adésínà àwọn ọmọ bọ́tà ó láti lọ béèrè pé irú àtàrí àjànàkú yẹn mo mọ̀ pé wà lọ́pọ̀lọ́ ẹ̀ pé èwo tún ní àtàrí àjànàkú
ṣé fẹ́yìn
orúkọ èèyàn kan ló ń jájànàkú sátàrí ẹ̀ ni wọ́n sọ àtúbẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní àtúwẹ̀ dáadáa káwọ̀ pé ẹwà èdè yẹn níbi tí mo wá fẹ́ gbìyànjú láti sọ ni pé báwo ló ṣe ní ìbáṣepọ̀ pẹ̀lú àṣà alẹ́ wa ẹwà èdè tó lò bó tiẹ̀ kátó sí ìyẹn bó tiẹ̀ ṣe lè le tó nítorí níbàṣepọ̀ kan tó dán mọ́rán pẹ̀lú àṣà ilẹ̀ wa báyìí jẹ́ pé ìtàn adúláwọ̀ náà ni ó fi ẹwà èdè tó ní kìmí.
ẹ̀rù náà di because nǹkan tó mọ̀ ní nǹkan tó yẹn bá mọ̀ ló máa ń kọ̀wé nípa ẹ̀ ẹ̀ṣà wa agbègbè wa ibi tó ti dàgbà ohun tí Wọlé Ṣóyínká mọ̀ nìyẹn òun náà ló fi kọ gbogbo òwe ẹ̀ tó kọ particularly ẹrú ikú onírú ẹṣin ìyẹn iṣẹ́ tó lágbára ni but iṣẹ́ àṣà wa òun ló gbé kalẹ̀ tó tún ṣó tó fi àwọn ará òyìnbó táwọn náà wò pé irú kí lélẹ̀ bí nǹkan tó máa ń yà mí lẹ́nu nínú bàbá òun ni pé aláràmàǹdára ni tó bá ṣe lọ báyìí ó tún máa fi kan má kan á tún gbé sí bí ìta bá wo irú ikú onírú ẹṣin kó tó di pé bẹ́ẹ̀ sí ń kọ̀wé yẹn ní first page yẹn ó ní the conflict in this play is not physical but it's metaphysical láti bẹ̀rẹ̀ ó ti gbé ìṣòro ilé ẹ̀ tó máa kàwé yẹn lọ́wọ́ kó kọ́ máa rò lẹ́nu nítorí conflict ìwé yẹn is so glaring they want us to take it from the physical and experience it in the metaphysical world and alágbára kò.
àròjìnlẹ̀ ló ń fẹ́ fún wa pé ẹ tún wò kọjá bíi tèmi kọ́ dé kẹrù alàgbà ọ̀yádìrán àwọn ewì ẹ̀ àwọn poems ẹ̀ báwo ló ṣe ní ṣe pẹ̀lú àṣà ilẹ̀ Áfíríkà ilẹ̀ adúláwọ̀ tó mo sọ telephone conversation tó fẹ́ gbalé lọ́dọ̀ òyìnbó dúdú ni ẹ́ kò pọ̀fọ̀ mbẹ́ kò dẹ̀ dárúkọ ògún kò dárúkọ Ṣàngó ṣùgbọ́n báwo ni irun tí a lè múlò pé ó dá ó ṣe fọwọ́ sọ̀yà pé ọmọ adúláwọ̀ gidi ni ọ̀rọ̀ ẹni tó pọ̀.
ṣe rí ọ̀rẹ́ mi kò mẹ́nuba ni wípé bí òyìnbó ńláńlá ṣe wà ní Yorùbá ńláńlá wà o.
bẹ́ẹ̀ ni
àbẹ́ ẹ̀gbàgbé bẹ́ẹ̀.
bẹ́ẹ̀ ni
bá a ṣe jọ́ ọmọ adúláwọ̀ tá a jẹ́ Yorùbá ètò tá a bá tún rí àwọn tó máa sọ Yorùbá à ń béèrè túmọ̀
pé ewu ẹni tẹ́ ẹ sọ yẹ kí ni túmọ̀ ẹ̀.
ṣe àti kọ́kọ́ dì yẹn mú ṣe rí Professor Wọlé Ṣóyínká ó sọ ní gbogbo káfíńtà ló máa ń mọ irúgi tó ń fẹ́ fi kan nǹkan tó ń fẹ́ kàn sílé ó lẹ́lòmíì lè mú ọ̀gọ́rùn ẹlòmíì lè mú ohun tó ń bá ní ìrókò ló ń fẹ́ lò igi tó ń prevent tó nìyẹn wípé a ò gbọ́ nǹkan tó ń sọ a ò fọkàn balẹ̀ stọ́dì ẹ̀ tó ní responsibility òǹkọ̀wé fún àwùjọ ọ̀nà mẹ́ta náà ló fẹ́ pẹ́ sí. òǹkọ̀wé mi lè dúró ní ìpele bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣe wà lèmi náà ṣe wà. òǹkọ̀wé mi dẹ̀ lè dúró ní ìpele pé àní ibi tẹ́ wáyé mo fẹ́ kẹ́ ẹ tún wò sókè díẹ̀. ṣe rí fún àwọn tó ń jẹ́ olóyìnbó tí ọ̀rẹ́ mi Yínká ń sọ ní ìlú ìgbà wọn tí ó lè ka nǹkan tí wọ́n lè fi ń ká wa wọ́n wà o. Derek Walcott Nobel Prize winner ni also in literature from the Caribbeans. ó dìídì sọ ní àwọn professional theatre companies tó wà lọ́hùn wọ́n máa ń ṣe àwọn iṣẹ́ tó wá láti Africa. ó ní tó bá wo àwọn iṣẹ́ Wọlé Ṣóyínká tó bá wo àwọn kan ọ̀rá ń fi ilẹ̀ nìyí. ó ń gbà torí pé yunifásitì demand pé wọ́n fẹ́ perform iṣẹ́ ní tó jẹ́ Nobel laureate wọ́n wá wo èwo làwọn lè mú bẹ́ẹ̀ àwọn bíi broda jero wọ́n ń ṣe yẹn the Lion and the Jewel wọ́n ń ṣe yẹn Child International wọ́n ń ṣe yẹn ṣùgbọ́n kò sí èyí tó máa súnmọ́ the dance of the forest nínú wọn kò sí wọ́n lè attempt the road kò sí èyí tó máa súnmọ́ the swamp dwellers nínú wọn so àwọn ṣe yẹn rí lé even for Africans fúnra wa tó jẹ́ pé culture wa ló ń sọ ń pa ẹ̀ èèyàn tó máa ní láti bójú wo kí ló ṣe ń sọ ṣe rí art kì í ṣe pé bóyá báyìí náà rí kárẹ̀ sọ bẹ́ẹ̀ àgbékalẹ̀ náà ló ń jẹ́ art kìíní yóò dòdò ni ṣùgbọ́n èdè tá a fẹ́ fi pè tó máa mú ìyọ̀wò pé ṣé nǹkan tá à ń sọ náà nìyí òun náà ló ń jẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ tá a bá ti ń sọ bó ṣe rí kò sí nǹkan kan tí aráàlú ò lè sọ. bọ̀kọ̀ tó kọ́ tó wẹ́ òǹkọ̀wé yàtọ̀ sẹ́ni tó ń kà náà ni pé ó fẹ́ mú ọ̀nà kan wọ inú ẹ̀ tó jẹ́ pé ó yàtọ̀ sí bá a ṣe rí sí ẹnìkan júwe art ó ní àmì atẹ́gùn sínú ó ń ta bá ń mi normally tí ó yàtọ̀ kò sí nǹkan tó strange ó ní bẹ́ẹ̀ tẹ́nìkan bá fi sósì olú àmọ́ pé òun ṣe yàtọ̀ ó ní tẹ́nìkan bá bu olórí dúró sí wàá mọ̀ pé òun yìí tún yàtọ̀ ìyẹn ló fi ń jẹ́ art àwọn nǹkan tó òun fi sínú iṣẹ́ tiẹ̀ náà nìyí ẹ̀ ń sọ pa ìyálọ́jà Wọlé Ṣóyínká lè kọ̀wé fún ìyálọ́jà tí a bá rẹ̀ ń tó máa ṣàlàyé ẹ̀ fún ìyálọ́jà ìwé ẹ̀ bá ìyálọ́jà lọ dáadáa tí ìyálọ́jà náà gbádùn ẹ̀ bọ̀tẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ ká gbà wípé ọmọ Yorùbá ni Wọlé Ṣóyínká but kò kọ ìwé Yorùbá ó kọ ìwé Yorùbá ní èdè òyìnbó. He's an African man representing African culture, especially Yoruba culture, but with an English expression. Èdè òyìnbó ló fi ń ṣe àgbékalẹ̀ òun ìyàtọ̀ fi wà ní gbogbo nǹkan tá à ń sọ yìí. ẹ̀ ń sọ̀rọ̀ pa telephone conversation èèyàn fẹ́ gba ṣé ní nǹkan tó ń sọ ní telephone conversation tí bá pàpà understand ẹ̀ bí wọ́n sọ fún ìyálọ́jà á ṣe sàdánkátà fún Ṣóyínká. kí ló ń sọ náà ni pé gbogbo àwọn ìyá tó ń sọ fún àwọn láńlẹ́dì yìí tó yẹ pé wọ́n fẹ́ máa ṣe ẹlẹ́yàmẹ̀yà nípa báwo ló ṣe rí báwo ni kinní kan ó ń sọ̀rọ̀ nípa bí lipstick ẹ̀ ṣe rí ó ń sọ̀rọ̀ nípa kinní tó gbé dání tó fi ń mu sìgá gbogbo àwọn ohun tí ò dáa tá a fi ń lo culture òyìnbó tó dẹ̀ jẹ́ pé Africans náà ni wá but a fi ń rò pé bóyá ajẹ́ pàtàkì òun ni nǹkan tí púrọ̀mù yẹn ń sọ nípa ẹ̀.
All right, if you're just joining us, we are taking a look at preservation of African cultural heritage with focus on Professor Wole Soyinka, who turned 79 2 days ago. And we have with us here Mr. Razak Oyajiro, who is a theatre practitioner and also a film director, and Yinka Ola Williams, an artistic director and producer. He is of the Olusegun Obasanjo Presidential Library here in Abeokuta. We have a special package on Professor Wole Soyinka, and would love to really play that report for you now, for you to have a further insight into the man Kongi himself. When we come back, we talk more about Professor Wole Soyinka.
For Professor Akiwande Oluwole Soyinka, widely acknowledged as Kongi in the literary world, life couldn't be fairer given his unrivaled exploits in the field of literature, particularly in the black world. As a professor of comparative literature, Wole Soyinka, born the second of 6 children in the ancient city of Abeokuta, has left indelible marks on the sands of time. In all genres of literature, Professor Wole Soyinka, who turns 79 today, can never be said to be a pushover, as he has globally successfully lived up to his artistic appellation, Kongi.
He's a proud Nigerian export to the international world as per theatre. This is somebody who performs to his artistic responsibility without any
pretense.
Is that if you are talking about situating literature within the context of history, Soyinka is an icon. If you're talking about situating literature within the context of the African space, Soyinka has no equal. If you are talking about situating literature within the global space, nobody can beat him to that.
Professor Wole Soyinka, in my own view, represent an epitome of culture, tradition, and most importantly, the preservation of African hearts.
From his first major play, The Swamp Dwellers, published in 1958, to several others like Ake, Death and the Horseman, Lion and the Jewel, The Trials of Brother Jero, A Dance of the Forest, The Man Died, and Kongi's Harvest, among others, Professor Wole Soyinka, known for his peculiar style of writing, clearly stands out among his contemporaries. His outstanding feat in the works of art earned him a prestigious award of the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1986, the first African to ever be so honored.
If you want to study Wole Soyinka, you have to study him as a person in total, from his childhood to his matured age. He is a man, he is a complex human being. But one thing I remember from him is the fact that he was able to bring Africa to international scene. 1986, when he won the Nobel Prize for Literature.
Wherever you go, once you say you are from Ogun State, the first thing you say, do you know Wole Soyinka? That is to tell you that he's a man of high reputation in the society.
Professor Soyinka's life of political activism dated back to his university days when he and others founded the Pirate Confraternity, which was an anti-corruption and justice-seeking organization. From then on, it's been a life of struggle, both in his writings and real life.
Professor Wole Soyinka all his life has been an activist, so to speak, with his writing, the kind of work he has is known to have been producing or done in all his career.
He says the man died in him that kept silent. There's no way you can gag somebody like him. He's not just a sayer. He's not just a writer. He's a doer. You find that he's actively involved in whatever he says he believes in. And that is what he represents to the society and what he wishes to lay as an example to other writers as well.
As the Enigma, however, turned 79, just a year before joining the Octogenarian Club, are their core values of his the younger generation of writers, philosophers, and even social crusaders can hang on to?
The youth of today, we young ones of today, we should allow our minds to be politically active to our environment, to be politically active to our society, so that we will be able to change things around us.
For me, Soyinka is an enigma. It's somebody that we continuously need to celebrate every day of our lives. We continue to wish him well. We also continue to appreciate him. Everyone should.
Additional.
The man Professor Wole Soyinka within the context of the sustenance of African cultural values in contemporary works of art. We still have our guest in-house here as we custom Mr. Razak Oyadiro, who is a leading theatre practitioner, and Yinka Ola Williams, also a foremost film director and producer with the Olusegun Obasanjo Presidential Library. Ola.
Kò sí ohun tó máa níbẹ̀rẹ̀ tí ò ní lópin, torí ìmọ̀ọ́ba ààyè yóò tó láti fi ṣàlàyé ọ̀rọ̀. Bẹ́ẹ̀ ká fi eléyìí ṣe ìpele kínní, torí mọ̀ pẹ́yìn tẹ wà nílé náà pàápàá ọ̀rọ̀ a máa gbé yín lọ́kàn pé ó yẹ kẹ́yìn náà lè sọ kankan. Níṣẹ́ ló dàbí orin gbàtà máa ń kọ́ ńgbàtà wà májèṣe, ó dàbí a máa yìí lọ àmì lọ àdẹ̀yìn bọ̀ bí irú àwọn kan yẹn. Torí àwọn tó yẹ ká sì mẹ́nu bá ṣe pọ̀, àmọ́ ní tètè ibi tá a bá dé yẹ gbà fún wa. Àmọ́ ká tó lọ, tí a bá wo ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Wole Soyinka, kì í ṣòṣèlú torí mi ò rò pé gbígbà ààbò rí, ṣùgbọ́n ó ń fi ara ṣe aṣíwájú láti kópa gidi láti jẹ́ kí nǹkan yí padà ní ìlú. Tí a bá wo àwọn iṣẹ́ ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwọn ọgbà ló máa ní wọ́n á ní kinní kan wọ̀ tí ẹ pé ẹ̀ bá Prof láàrin iṣẹ́ ìyẹn náà pẹ̀lú literature ti àṣà Nàìjíríà làbá wò débẹ̀, àbí gbogbo àwọn òǹkọ̀wé bẹ́ẹ̀ ni wọ́n máa ń nírú nǹkan bẹ́ẹ̀ yẹn lára. Alàgbà Yadiro.
Tó bá tiẹ̀ ní lára èèyàn yàtọ̀ sí èèyàn, àkàndá ni Professor Wole Soyinka, nítorí ẹ rí i pé nǹkan téèyàn ń kọ náà tó bá wo láìvẹ̀ ó tún fẹ́ ní í ṣe pẹ̀lú ìgbé ayé olúwa ẹ̀ sí. Professor Wole Soyinka jẹ́ nǹkan tó ní zero tolerance for rubbish. Kò tiẹ̀ ráyè gbogbo àlàyé tá à ń ṣe látàárọ̀ ìwé ẹ̀ ìgbà àwọ̀ yìí púrọ̀ ẹ̀mú ẹ̀ tó simple jù láyé yìí tẹ̀ bá gbé lọ́ba pé kí ni mí nílé he will not interpret for you. He will not. What is the meaning of this? He will tell you go and give it your own meaning. So ìwé èèyàn bẹ́ẹ̀ yẹn kò dẹ̀ ń ṣe ẹni tó máa rí nǹkan kan tẹ́ máa rò kó bóyá kò gbọ́dọ̀ sọ̀rọ̀ kò sí ẹni tó lè pa ẹnu Wole Soyinka mọ́. Tẹ́ bá wo àwọn òwe tó kọ́ ń gbà yẹn especially mo máa ń rí fast demand died gan because ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwọn èèyàn kì í understand ẹ bá ka story demand died ọ̀tọ̀ ní nǹkan táwọn èèyàn máa rò wá rò pé èèyàn kú but level of metaphor tó fi gbé ọ̀rọ̀ yẹn kalẹ̀ ó yàtọ̀ sí báwọn èèyàn ṣe ń wo àkọlé ìwé tá à ń sọ yìí. Nǹkan tó ń sọ ní ìwé yẹn ni pé ohun tó ń jẹ́ ọkùnrin nínú ẹni yẹn ó ti kú níjọ́ tó bá rí nǹkan tó yẹ kó sọ̀rọ̀ nípa ẹ̀ tí ò lè sọ. Nǹkan tí demand died wá about nìyẹn and so every time wọ́n máa sọ fún wa pé òun ò lè rí nǹkan tó yẹ kó òun sọ nípa ẹ̀ kò lọ nínú ìjọba ẹni tó bá ń ṣe dáadáa nìkan lọ̀rẹ́ Wole Soyinka tó bá sọ dáadáa lónìí tẹ́ni yẹn bá ṣe nǹkan tó kù díẹ̀ káàtó lọ́la ó máa jẹ́ ẹni àkọ́kọ́ tá a kọ́ sọ pé ọ̀rẹ́ wa eléyìí ò dáa tó. That is bó ẹ náà ó ṣe dáa gẹ́gẹ́ bí àkàndá nìyẹn nǹkan iná ìlàdẹ̀ rí ní ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwọn nǹkan tó ń kọ síta gẹ́gẹ́ bí òǹkọ̀wé. Ó sọ̀rọ̀ nípa Nàìjíríà nígbà tó ń sọ̀rọ̀ South Africa ó fẹ́ jẹ́ one of the foremost writer tó sọ̀rọ̀ gan nípa South Africa nípa ọ̀rọ̀ corruption gbogbo wàhálà tó wà Nàìjíríà ẹ̀ wá lè sọ nípa ẹ̀ ó pọ̀ jù. Nígbà kan Wole Soyinka gbé kinní kan dé tá à ń pè ní guerrilla theatre nígbà importation of rice everywhere ni wọ́n gbé play yẹn káàkiri láàrin ọjà àwọn òṣèré akọ́dédé ní wọ́n tó tiẹ̀ ti wá nǹkan tó ń pè ń gòrí láàrin ẹbí bí ajagun tó dé láì sọ pé bóyá òun ń bọ̀ wọ́n bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí sọ nípa rice ìyẹn máa lọ bẹ́ẹ̀ ẹ wo ọ̀rọ̀ lórí Wóyọ̀sí aṣọ léèsì tó jẹ́ pé èèyàn àwọ̀ tán gbogbo ara gan ìhòòhò ló fẹ́ wà ó ṣe ọ̀pọ̀ra Wóyọ̀sí ó máa sọ nípa kí lòun ṣe rí nǹkan sí lọ́kàn tiẹ̀ láì jẹ́ pé bóyá ẹnìkan ṣẹ̀fẹ̀ sọ pé bóyá kò gbọ́dọ̀ sọ bẹ́ẹ̀. Nípa ọ̀rọ̀ tìjọba kò lọ́rẹ̀ẹ́ níjọba kò lọ́ta tó bá ti rí nǹkan kan tó rò pé bákan ìkan ṣe ìjà náà lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́ ń sìn tẹ́yìn náà mọ̀ ń pa ẹ̀ àbẹ́ẹ̀ mọ̀ ń pa ẹ̀ so ó dẹ̀ sọ bóun ṣe rí ní tiẹ̀ ni that is Kongi for you.
Yinka Williams, will you say the Nigerian society has enough sense of appreciation of this enigma?
I don't think so. Beyond that, beyond the esotericness of his work, it's also that Nigeria is that we celebrate our heroes only when they die, and that is not only Wole Soyinka. Is that it's just our natural. It's when people are dead and gone that we actually begin to appreciate them and thank them. But if you look at Wole Soyinka from birth in Abeokuta, his father being an Anglican minister, who was raised from a Christian home, I think he made a judgment while growing up. If you look at the word activism, political activism, I think for someone like, yes, every writer is an activist to an extent, because he is portraying a message. His intention is to change the ethos and the catharsis of man to conform to the image of the society. But that's a big major background. But for someone like Wole Soyinka, he transcended beyond being a writer. I think it's in his gene. If you look from his mother's side, they are from Boliko Ransom Kuti. Fela, Beko were his first cousins, growing up. Even in 1960, when his play it was the first person that, when Nigeria became independent, that actually put up a play, with the 1960 Mass Theatre, and then the Orioloku Theatre Company which he ran. I think during the 70s, he wanted to take over a radio station to make an announcement. He was jailed, during the Biafra War. That he spent 2 years, 22 or thereabout,
22 months
in prison, because there were reasons to believe that he was speaking with Dino Jureku, and then he was writing for the end of the, even during the Nadeko. Then you also know that there are little states, when we say state of Sina, Batel magazine at that time, when he works under the road safety, during the Babangida regime, which was in a way was used to dent his image. And but when Abacha came, he vehemently he opposed military administration in Nigeria, that he ran away from Nigeria, and even in absentia he's supposed to be a dead man if Abacha was still alive, and he survived that. He's a great man par excellence. I think he has done very well. He has done wonder. He has inspired a lot of people. My own problem is where I have is that how much of all this writer, the work, the privileges that they have been able to affect the landscape of culture, tradition, arts in Nigeria. For me, when I look at the sector, I'm not happy. And someone who have practiced for 16 years, I don't think that the elders have done very well. Well, often it's like they promoted themselves, but they've not really left. You know, it's not about doing play for avant-garde and writing fantastic play. It's also being able to sustain that sector. You know, art and culture, theater is a dying sector in Nigeria. Most wonderful colleagues who I know are exceptionally actors, directors, they are living in ignominy, you know, not because they are not good, but because there is no system for them. You know, there is no urgent development. I felt that in the last 20-30 years there must have been a program to develop urgence, you know, make it more popular for people to like the theater, and which is not. And then we came the home video industry, which has further, you know, strangulated, you know, that sector further. And for me, my call is that we need to go back to the drawing board and see how we can revive. But our elders have done.
All right, Mr. Razak, before we go now, just one word from you with respect to the essence of this discourse.
Well, while mentioning, let me just put this in before we forgot that the present, what do we call them, road safety, started from an idea originated by Kongi. Yes. What has metamorphosed into what we call road safety today was actually an idea of Professor Wole Soyinka. It started from the Maja era, you know, before it is now packaged into what we have as what we are talking about is, we are talking about how literature, writing, culture would have impacted better on our society, and that is because there is still a missing link. The missing link, as per people like Wole Soyinka, is that the critical aspect of our writing is not doing well to help us. You have the writer, somebody like Wole Soyinka, who has done it. You have the critics, people who are supposed to understand, like I was trying to tell my friend Ola Williams, that yes, somebody can interpret telephone conversation for a Aloja for her to enjoy. The critical link is to make sure that he or she tells the audience, this is what this person is saying, because there are scholastic plays, and there are people who will not take presentation of plays like an ordinary playtime, like let us just enjoy entertainment and so on.
All right, Mr. Oyadiro, we must actually let it be for now. Maybe as Ola Williams did say, we'll make the first part of the discourse, and we'll look for time also to extensively dissect the man Wole Soyinka, who in my own opinion is the modern face of literary excellence. That's my own personal conviction. I may be right, I may be wrong.
You are right.
We really must thank you, gentlemen, for your time with us on this program. Mr. Oyadiro, thank you so much. Yinka Ola Williams, thank you so much. On behalf of your brother, I take his handshake. So we will take another break, and when we return, we shall be joined by two other gentlemen. They are from the Yewa Descendant Union, UK and Ireland. They are Shegun Ebo and Ade Eneton. They want to tell us about the Yewa Day in the United Kingdom. Please stay with us.
Hey, Ben Samoski. So good to see you.
Money the man in his village all over too. And he said, why?